Hello, everybody, and welcome to Non Sequitur News for August 31st, 2024. It's Season 3, Episode 244. I am Mayor Watt, and that is the visualizer and voice of the Sentient AI.
Welcome, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News.
Today we're going to be talking about the wrong side of unwanted attention, Heinz carbonara in a can, the Pratinja earthquake shift, the right to disconnect in Oz, weight loss and biological aging, response sign to neighbors, Roman Ram fell off, Amazon checkout breaks for some, sleeping in on weekends, and 40 plus miles per gallon. That and more. I want to take a drink of my hard cherry apple cider, but I can't because it'll make slurping sounds, and I just want everybody to know that I have got this wildly
You can
delicious.
mute your mic for a moment,
or I can do ASMR. Maybe not. Anyway, why don't we do this? Let's get into today's articles. And if you want them, you can hit !NSN, and that will post it into the chat on Twitch. And I found out overnight that YouTube has this weird limit where the bot won't input any data into the channel after a certain point, and I guess it was hit overnight, and it disconnected ohmTown and me, like my broadcaster account. I still broadcasted live for the duration, but interactions with the chat, I guess I'm not one of those that's allowed to do long term. I don't know. Guess we'll see. We'll find out, because it'll happen again as we update and we do the week in review. I keep 7 days of non sequitur news and all of the latest weekly episodes so that everybody can play catch up, and it's well received, so I'm going to keep doing it. Anyway, so there you go. You can get all of the articles for the last non sequitur news, and if you want all of the show notes, or the syntax I should say, so that you can get the show notes, you hit !show notes. And if you want to get to the podcasts, you hit !pod, and that'll give you links to the podcasts. At least over on Twitch, because YouTube does not like me, apparently. Well, I mean, the administration system. But let's keep going. Sound good?
Sounds good.
So here in the States, it's Labor Day weekend. Monday is Labor Day.
That's right.
And so there are sales. So you're going to see a lot of sales stuff over in ohmTown.com this weekend. And you're going to see on Wanted, which is one of our shows, discussion maybe about some of the sales, but not in this show. I just wanted to draw attention to the fact that it's Labor Day weekend, and Mayor Watt wants stuff. Okay.
And at least buy it on sale, not full price.
That's right. Yep. And so we have 6 other shows: Wanted, Reality Hacker, The Continuity Report, that's later today. And then tomorrow is Non Sequitur News, WarCrafters, 4-Wheel Tech, Technology Today. But right now, Non Sequitur News. Boom. First article is over in the Word in Law. City of Columbus sues man after he discloses severity of ransomware attack. Because you know what you want. You want attention for somebody being public about something that you should be public about.
Exactly. I don't think the right emphasis is going on here.
Right. No, what you're supposed to do, try that in a small town, is not say anything unless your masters tell you you are authorized to do so. Bend the knee, kiss the ring. Sorry. I get a little carried away being mayor, of ohmTown. I can pretty much do whatever I want, you know? I mean, sorry, did it again. Anyway, a judge in Ohio has issued a temporary restraining order against a security researcher who presented evidence that a recent ransomware attack at the city of Columbus scooped up reams of sensitive personal information, contradicting claims made by city officials. The order issued by the judge in Ohio's Franklin County, which means if I talk about this when I drive through Ohio, I'm going to get pulled over. Came after the city of Columbus fell victim to a ransomware attack on July 18th that siphoned 6.5 terabytes of the city's data. A ransomware group known as s3e244 took credit for the attack and offered to auction off the data. Dan Gooden over at arstechnica.com put the article together. They tend to go into great detail in these articles over at Ars Technica. But the deck statement says, Mayor said data was unusable to criminals. Researcher proved otherwise. And I'm sorry. You have no idea what the data can be used for.
Yeah, I think that'd be tough to really say that, because I think any data could be then presented as being representative of the person or whatever it is. I mean,
whatever it is.
They wouldn't steal the data unless it had some use.
And it's 6.5 terabytes of the city's data. Terabytes. If this was the uncompressed data, that's a lot. If this was compressed data, it's a shit ton. Pardon my language, kids. And that's a technical term. There's even, shit ton is one value, and then metric shit ton is so it's international. Like everybody knows what a metric shit ton is. But that 6.5 terabytes of data, of city level data, right? I don't know. So shortly after Ginther made his remarks, security researcher David Leroy Ross contacted local news outlets and presented evidence that showed that data s3e244 published was fully intact and contained highly sensitive information regarding city employees and residents. Ross, who uses the alias Connor Goodwolf, presented screenshots and other data that showed that the files s3e244 had posted included names from domestic violence cases, social security numbers of police officers and crime victims. Some of the data spanned years. If any of this is not useful to criminals, give me a break. First off, I'm sorry, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther. You do not know what the hell you're talking about. Because all of that data can be exploited both for phishing and psychological threats, manipulations, abuse, cyberbullying. You could torment
all kinds
somebody.
Of things.
I mean, it isn't because people are social that they sit there and extract this information and then use it. They're antisocial. So they don't give a crap what these people are going through or the law. They're going to be able to auction this off, and people who want to abuse police officers remotely will be able to do it. And good luck, because international criminals are nearly untouchable until it rises to the point where the state wants to come after them. So
it's interesting. The mayor claimed that everything was encrypted or corrupted. First of all, I think if something actually was encrypted, which it might not have been, it could be accessed. And then my point is, if they have any IT savvy, even if that was accurate,
right, it doesn't make any sense. If the information that was posted publicly was verified by the actual,
clearly it was
security.
Unencrypted at some point.
Yeah,
and usable, readable.
Doesn't make any sense. So maybe, right? We're looking outside and looking in the fishbowl and going, what the hell?
Yeah, but somebody could have told the mayor something like, oh, everything's okay.
Right, and they're taking it.
And then the mayor looks like he or she doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, so the same day, a Franklin County judge granted the city's motion for a temporary restraining order against Ross. It bars the researcher from accessing and or downloading or disseminating any city files that were posted to the dark web. Fine. But here's the problem. The cat's out of the bag already. The motion was made and granted ex parte. Huh?
I mean, and he's not the one who posted it.
Right. He's just verifying that the information is valid, right? But I guess if you hold up a Post-it note that has a photocopy of information, I guess that's damaging enough. The verification that what's on the internet is legit. When the messaging is don't go to sleep. Just go. Everything's okay. Don't worry, Ohio. Columbus, it's okay.
I have a problem with this because this person is shining a light on what's actually out there. And this kind of is one of these like chilling effect kind of
issues. Abuse happens in the dark, and this is definitely abuse in the dark and then abuse in the dark. I mean, the hackers breached in the dark, took nearly 7 terabytes of information and exfiltrated it. Apparently valid information. And then they suppressed it. And what's supposed to happen is large organizations are required to notify those who may have been harmed.
Well, exactly. So not only did they not do that, but they said, nope, no issue here.
Right. And then they basically are harming the reputation and the professional ethic of a security professional. I have a problem with it from beginning to end. So it says this is not about freedom of speech or whistleblowing. Hell yes, it is about whistleblowing. He said this is about the downloading and disclosure of stolen criminal investigatory records. This effect is to get Ross to stop downloading and disclosing stolen criminal records to protect public safety. What?
I don't understand this because if it's publicly accessible and if he's drawing media attention so that it gets resolved or action is taken.
Here is what they're saying, and here in the quote is what they're saying. Here's the argument. The lawsuit filed by the city of Columbus pertains to stolen data that Mr. Ross downloaded from the dark web to his own local device and then disseminated to the media. In fact, several outlets used the stolen data provided by Ross to go door to door and contact individuals using names and addresses contained within the stolen data.
Okay, but that's not Ross's problem.
No, he's drawing attention to the fact that the city was breached and has not informed people who could be falling prey to it actively. Right? Mr. Ross also showed multiple news outlets stolen confidential data belonging to the city, which he claims reveals the identity of undercover. All of this. So they're basically saying, Mr. Ross, you're not allowed to talk about it. Even though he found the data on the dark web because he is a researcher.
There, except for him.
Yeah. He found it. He's exposing it because the city failed to do anything about it. Unless there's an ongoing investigation. And if there was, why not tell Mr. Ross, thank you for the information.
We're on it.
We've notified the authorities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What? Do you think that they're doing this surreptitiously? They're doing it. There's actually a team of professionals on this from Columbus that know how to navigate the dark web and are insinuating themselves into the criminal organization. What is it called? Reseda. They're insinuating themselves into Reseda, and they're gonna get to the bottom of this, right? With the mayor sitting there going, it's unusable. And we sell hammers, says the chief security officer of Home Depot. Former. I don't think they're there anymore. Anyway, it's frustrating. But it's somebody else's problem. Don't worry about it. Columbus, you're in good
on
hands.
Ars Technica for
bringing
posting
more
this.
Yep, Good on them. Thanks, Dan. Okay, let's keep going. Next article is over in the Marble channel. Heinz insults all of Italy as it introduces carbonara in a can for Gen Z eaters, taking aim at Gen Z taste buds. I merged taking aim at Gen Z taste buds and merged taking aim. I'll be okay. Heinz has introduced spaghetti carbonara in a can. As you can imagine, Italians are furious. Heinz wants to combine the delicious flavors of one of the most well-known pasta varieties in the world with ease, convenience, and apparently chemical preservatives. But not everybody is going to...
every food manufacturer.
If it tastes good, I have no problem. Chemical preservatives, unless you are sitting there running out to the field and taking a bite out of a damn cow, there's preservatives all over your stuff. And I'm sure that there's so many people out there that are like, oh my God, I would never in a million years. Please.
Well, not everybody has all day to make a dish that's fresh from the orchard or wherever.
Right. Not everybody can be Mayor Watt with, private chef and a private plane. It's green. It uses biofuel. And I fly to Italy. I have my people contact people to prep it for me so I can eat carbonara. And I do it just to spite everybody. I say, put that carbonara in a can. And then I sit right there on the promenade and I just knack away at that. Anyway, carbonara is deceptively simple pasta preparation. There's the pasta itself, of course. The fresher, the better. And then there's eggs, a type of cured pork called guanciale, I guess it's called, pecorino cheese, and some black pepper. I don't know, how do you pronounce that? I don't think I've ever heard that.
Guanciale, maybe?
Guanciale?
I haven't either.
Anyway, the Heinz version substitutes pancetta, which that is probably what I've always seen used in carbonara.
Right, unless I suspect some restaurants substitute that as well, at least in the U.S.
Yeah, and so I can just imagine the author of this, or I should say all of Italy, come sprinting down the aisle of my favorite restaurant just to tackle me because they've got pancetta in there. Yeah. All right. If it's in that can, then somebody should be beaten, but is it in that can? Is it really pink and yellow?
Apparently.
Oh, I figured out what the problem is. That buzz is definitely cellular. And it's getting picked up by my headphone cable. So, and it's causing feedback through my system. Very frustrating, let me tell you. Focus, Mayor Watt. Focus. Hold on, I need to do something. I'm with you, folks. I'm with you. All right. So, I'm in the chat. So, just trying to make sure everybody is appeased. So if you have questions or comments, throw it in chat.
An uproar about the pancetta?
Yeah. Come at me, bro. No, don't. I'm really not that impassioned about spaghetti carbonara. Although I'm going to go and get it just so I can try it. Just so I can see if it makes me pancetta.
Nobody that's upset about it has probably tried it.
Right. So they say the pasta gets its signature creaminess from slowly emulsifying the eggs, cheese, and pork fat in a warm, definitely not hot pan. If the pan is too hot, you'll get scrambled eggs. And if you screw it all up, then it all just collapses into an oily mess. But anyway, Heinz version adds a few extra ingredients that are still quite homey and reminiscent of the pasta's Italian grandmothers have all been making for decades. Pantry staples like sodium ascorbate and maltodextrin, which, when you use the technical terms for something, the clinical terms for something, you're, oh my God. But it's a stabilizer and a preservative. But guess what?
And that makes it safe to eat for more than 5 minutes.
Right. It stays stable. Shelf stable in a can. I don't recommend doing what Mayor Watt does and buys a bunch of stuff hoping that they'll get to it, and then they are there for 2 years before you go back through the pantry and say, hey, AI. Is it safe to eat something that has a best by date of 2.5 years ago? Yeah.
Probably not.
Every speaker in the mayoral mansion screamed, "No!" Neighbors, because we're on 40 acres, right? Neighbors from 40 acres away came over and said, "Hey, we heard your AI say no." Anyway, the meals director, Alessandra de Druel, for Heinz, when reached for comment, she had her perfectly prepared PR spin ready to go. Quote, which characterizing this as PR spin is pretty stonesy. Quote, whether enjoyed as a comforting meal after a long day or shared with friends whilst catching up on the latest TV series, Heinz Spaghetti Carbonara is the perfect fuss-free dinner solution. Reading that should automatically trigger a commercial jingle in your brain, and it did. So I guess it works.
It absolutely seems like an ad.
For sure. So if that's what it looks like, no, that's not what it looks like. Well, the
Times of London did not give it a fantastic review.
The Times of London,
it's going to be sold in the UK, yeah.
Had its food editor taste Heinz Carbonara. They have a typo. Take and a that, can.
Well, no wonder they didn't like it.
Yeah, they ate it and
they served them a can.
Take that, Vice. You can't call out people as a perfect sentence structure and grammar. Here are some choice excerpts from the brief review. So let's start with the positive. The Heinz version is ready in 2 minutes and I suppose you could argue consists of just one ingredient, a tin.
Oh my gosh, see, that just demonstrates that the actual can was served.
It's part of it, yes. Well, I mean, you want fiber. There are some
minerals.
Minerals, yes. The mealy pancetta fails to lift a thin, watery, off-puttingly sweet travesty of a great Italian original.
Ouch.
Crushing. Heard off in the distance the Heinz chef that made this. No. My career. Nah. If it's in the States, I'll go and get some and I'll try it. And I'll let y'all know. I'll make it right before the show and I'll try it right here on air.
Well, it's only in the UK, but
is it?
And
only
that might explain
in the
the different packaging too, because I don't think that's used in the US.
Only in the UK?
According to the article, yes.
Well, then that sucks. Let's move on. Next article is over in Technology Today. New research reveals that the Petrinja earthquake shifted the ground by over 15 inches. The earthquake that struck near the Croatian town of Petrinja in December 2020 with a magnitude of 6.4 was felt all across Croatia and in neighboring countries. It caused significant damage in the area. In December 2020, that 6.4 earthquake apparently moved the ground 15 inches. I think we saw pictures of this.
Yeah, I don't remember if this was the same earthquake.
Yeah, it was that beefy one where I think there were like farmers on their land and it was like just, you could see just how devastating it was. Fields separated and stuff. And I don't know how to pronounce this. Etvos Lorand University, perhaps. So let's see if they've got any pictures of. No. Maximum of 20 centimeters, 7.9 in vertical direction, 15.7 or 40 centimeters horizontal displacement. Last earthquake.
You know, this is a 6.4 earthquake, which is not a minor earthquake, but it's also not one of those mega earthquakes. And so that's pretty interesting to me that a 6.4 would cause this.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, if it's the land makeup, right? The construction, whatever the soil is. Because like in Florida, if there's an earthquake, it does subduction because of the land, what it's...
Right. I mean, if it's like sand or clay or, I mean, any number of things would be impacted differently.
Yeah, what is that actually called? Sorry, you can hear me typing. I can't remember, liquefaction. That's what it's called. Yeah. So like depending on what happens, the type of shaking, something could completely collapse and you get a big slump, and then others can liquefy.
Do you think you would return to your house, for example, except your driveway wouldn't line up with your house, that kind of thing?
Yeah. That's what's happening in California. Yep. And so they've actually shut down an entire neighborhood.
That's right, a section, I think, in Rancho Palos Verdes, if I'm not mistaken.
Because it's shifting down towards the ocean.
Right.
Anyway, this is a really neat article that's talking about the largest geodetic co-seismic assessment of the 2020 magnitude 6.4 Petrinja earthquake by Marko Pavasovich, sorry, et al. There are several. But it's the largest, it's the biggest quake in that area since one in Zagreb in 1880. So they've been keeping records for a while. It's pretty cool. Anyway, we're going to play catch up because we want to try and keep the show to an hour. But we can always revisit some of this stuff over time in the chat at ohmTown.com, in the Discord, on the YouTube discussions, etc. I wish Twitch had discussions that persisted, but they actually delete the article or the video, the stream, after 60 days. So let's keep going. Australians have a right to disconnect, but how workplaces react will be crucial. This is over on Technology Today. From Monday, August 26, many employees in Australia get a new right called the right to disconnect from work. Emmanuel Josserand and Martine Boersma from The Conversation put this article together. They're an external site and a podcast, I believe. But they post a lot of stuff over at techexplorer.com. And we had heard about this a while back, that this was coming. We're not in Australia, but I have certain aspirations for American society, like the right to disconnect and the right to be forgotten and do not kill games mentality. Do not kill.
Agreed. Let's aspire to do not kill.
Yeah, that too. Which without, I don't want to get into it.
Let's strongly aspire toward that.
Yeah. I was in a discussion with somebody, and it was about 2A, right? Second Amendment rights and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for Second Amendment. But I have a problem with saying that there isn't a problem when you're standing behind bulletproof glass saying that there's no problem. The irony is not lost. But that has nothing to do really with what we're talking about here. But like do not kill games and live service stuff, whenever on a whim somebody goes, well, I'm not interested in, managing the cost of this anymore. I'm just going to turn off the service, except that people have been paying into this, right? They have games that are supposed to be played. I'm looking at you, Ticket to Ride.
Characters or levels or things that they bought in the game.
I really wish, hey, if anybody knows a good attorney that wants to do a class action, I think Ticket to Ride would be a perfect game to go and, make the point that stop killing games in the United States. I know that the one in the EU is kind of faltering because the mandate is you can't keep a company locked into providing a service. Well, you can require them to open up that service. If they're going to kill it, make it available for people to host their own. Makes sense? But,
right, it absolutely does, but that doesn't seem to be the pattern.
No, because planned obsolescence, if I provide the service for 5 years, then you all got enough out of it. So let me kill it and release another one.
What's the problem there? Let's make you buy another game.
That's right. Bastards. Anyway, so the Fair Work Commission says that what will matter is whether the refusal is unreasonable rather than whether the attempted contact is unreasonable. This is because essentially outside of working hours, an employee has the right to refuse even contact They don't have to pick up the phone, and it can't impair their job.
And that's good, but I think the problem here is the burden is on the worker, not on the employer. So, for example, if the employer is at a place that, let's say, does not provide something that is emergency services or something, and they're contacting the employee at 2 a.m. or something like, can you get that report on my desk tomorrow?
Right.
I mean, to me, the employee shouldn't have to demonstrate that they're properly refusing that.
Yep. So among other things, the things that will determine whether a refusal is unreasonable are the employee's role, their personal circumstances, the method and reason for the contact, how much disruption it causes them, and whether they are compensated for being available or for working additional hours.
Let's cut to the chase. That's always going to be no at the end, right?
Well, it could be retroactively yes, right? Like, if they try and contact me and I don't pick up the phone because I'm not getting paid for the additional hours, they can say retroactively, hey, we were going to pay you, but you didn't pick up the phone.
Right, which is like, come on. How many companies are paying the workers that they're bothering during their off hours?
Right. And
unless they're in like an on-call status, like a medical or something like that.
Right. And they could probably sit there and make it a policy. Like, hey, if we contact you outside of working hours, then you get paid for it. But if I don't want to be contacted outside of working hours, then I'm on the hook, because obviously you have a policy that activates this and hobbles my ability to have a life outside of work, because you're always, making me pseudo on call. It drives me nuts. Anyways, it says those working for small businesses with fewer than 15 employees get the right to disconnect in August 2025. So a year later.
I mean, I kind of think the small business workers probably have it worse than the large business workers, because they're probably more of a skeleton crew. And then it's like, if something comes up, they're leaning heavily on those individuals. On the other hand, sometimes a large business culture is more toward the employer than the small business environments. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think the bigger the organization, the more dehumanized employees are. And I agree here with supporters say the right to disconnect is needed to slow the encroachment of work into personal life. Opponents say it'll harm productivity and flexibility. And I'm sorry. Do something else.
I don't think if you're a regular worker, you should have to be basically in an on-call status at all times for things that are not emergencies.
Correct.
Pay the people accordingly if you think, and let them know that up front when you hire them, that we're going to be calling you at all hours with ridiculous requests.
Yep. I think that employees shouldn't have to worry about corporate productivity. If my hours are from this to this, my personal life matters to me, and it should matter to everybody. Not everybody sells their soul.
The other problem is here too, like the employer even making contact, even if it's disregarded, is adding stress in the off time. Yep. Because then the employee is seeing that the employer called or whatever, and they're not able to actually get out of work mode.
Yep. And the bigger problem is there's a sociological impact in that somebody who doesn't pick up the phone is seen as not a team player, and that even if the employer decides to immediately fire, they don't. They just go, you know what? I'll just ride this out for 6 months. And because I know you're not a team player, I can't rely on you. So I'm going to fire you in 6 months. So it doesn't look like I'm firing you because you didn't pick up my phone for the last 3 months. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's sociopathic. And I think that business tends to be when you see employees as nothing more than tools and not humans. You see them as tools first and humans never, right? But the ones that you do see as human are friends and buddies from college and stuff like that, and the nepotistic sociopath, or the nepotistic side, they get all of these benefits and whatever else, and they don't get fired because they're friends. But
I was going to say that I think leads to more of this, because then it's like, if you're treating that business as not entirely professional, right? Like you're treating it like a family or something, you're leaning heavily on your employees, and then you're like, why can't you help out here?
at time, but what are you going to do? Fire your friend? I mean, that's a harder road to haul.
Right.
So, but I've been surrounded by people in other places, wherein there's an expectation that the old stalwart, the anchors, the pillars of the company don't do weekend work or late night work, and so you have to lean on the new people and the other subordinates, termed subordinates. And that just drove me nuts, because you don't assign to somebody else something that you're not willing to do yourself. If you're incapable.
I thought that was going in another direction, as in they were setting the tone that we don't do off hours work for the whole company. But yeah, that's not.
No, they say assign it to other people.
Yeah.
Give me the cush and
right.
Give the backbreaking work to somebody else. Yeah, I thought it was scummy, so I would never do that. Anyway, let's keep on moving. This is an interesting article. It is much longer than what we're talking about, but the nuts and bolts of this is that the Fair Work Commission wants employers and employees to attempt to resolve this themselves before escalating disputes to the commission.
Okay.
And everybody.
Why do we need this in place? Because the employers are abusing this.
Correct. Yep.
So what are the chances this gets resolved? The employee complains, the employer says, we're firing you, or we're docking your pay, or we're doing this, that, or the other. And
then they move on to some other job, and they can't get a job because they're poo-pooing them.
Exactly. Even though they were probably in the right, the employee.
Yeah, they've always been in the right. Oh my God. Let's keep going. The next article is over in Non Sequitur News. Weight loss drugs like Ozempic could help slow biological aging, according to researchers. Weight loss injections, and in the future, there's some really strong evidence that pills are coming instead of injections, which means availability and lower cost.
Right, fewer supply chain issues. That'll be good because I know the demand has certainly outstripped the supply, and plus then it'll just be more accessible and more, I guess, shelf stable, etc.
Yep, because it has to be refrigerated, these injections and stuff. And what I think is amazing about this is if they don't find anything long-term harmful, then these types of medications are beneficial to everybody everywhere. Because particularly in America, obesity is just massive, and you can sit there and live your life like you have always lived your life, and you're eating, less than 2,500 calories, and you're going for walks, and you still seem to gain weight, particularly when you age. And a lot of it is genetic, and you have other issues that ride along with it. These drugs immediately start the process of losing weight, and that has long-term benefits over the rest of your life, and then you do get stuck on maintenance levels. You have to keep taking it. But people who took it for, I think it was 2 years, maintained the weight after the 2 years, all the way up to 4 or 5 years.
Well, that does distinguish it from other things that have been tried in the past, right? Where there's kind of a ping pong effect or something.
Yeah, and there was one that was in the past that it actually was a form of speed and caused people to have like heart attacks and stuff. So.
Oh, wow. Well, these are, of course, are having positive, I know you mentioned positive effects, but even positive effects for cardiovascular health.
Yep. And there's, I think it's Zepbound. Maybe it was Ozempic. I'm not sure. It had a Z in it, I think. But one of the weight loss drugs for weight-related breast cancers, it reduced the chance of based on the evidence that was already supported in the study. Breast cancer. So found that really interesting too. So these weight loss injections may slow the biological aging process, according to researchers. Studies found that semaglutide reduced inflammation regardless of whether users lost weight. In fact, it has a whole bunch of side effects, lowering cholesterol, lowering blood sugar. It's like a miracle drug, really. We just hope, like everybody who watches this hopes that nothing comes out 5 years later, like the wine study.
Right. I mean, there are some negative side effects that have been reported for these already. But I agree, they need to look at it in the long term.
So Rebecca Roman over at Business Insider put the article together. Studies found that semaglutide reduced inflammation regardless of whether users lost weight. The Times of London reported, and the Ozempic come with a risk of severe side effects, one of which is, I think it's thyroid cancer on the far side. It's rare, but it can happen. But the number of studies presented on Friday at the European Society of Cardiology conference found that the pricey drug, Ozempic, Wegovy, etc., semaglutide in general, and weight loss drugs in general, which is initially marketed as a diabetes treatment, reduced inflammation regardless of whether users lost weight. It's very rare that you don't lose weight when you're on this medication. You have to counteract everything. Because on these drugs, you typically lose the desire to eat. So you can go into a caloric deficit like within a week. And other gastrointestinal changes take place. Like you eat more protein, you take more fiber, and you basically start losing all of the static weight that stays in your digestive system. So according to the report, Harlan Krumholz, a professor of medicine at Yale University who edits the Journal of American College of Cardiology, where the studies were published, said that the drug was somehow quieting inflammation, adding that the benefit was broad. There's not a group that doesn't seem to be benefiting. Pretty amazing. Yeah, just wait until somebody, when you hear a doctor sit there and go, metabolic syndrome X.
AKA, we don't know what is going on.
What the hell is metabolic syndrome X? I hear that from people. Yeah, metabolic syndrome X. Anyway, experts also suggested that drug could be used to treat a number of conditions are linked to inflammation, including cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, per the Times of London. It literally is like this, wonder drug. Participants who were overweight or obese and had cardiovascular disease, but no history of diabetes, researchers found that those who took the drug died at a lower rate from all causes.
I mean, that's pretty spectacular results.
Yep. So it mimics GLP-1, a hormone produced by the gut that helps balance food or blood sugar and makes you feel full. So when you start taking this, that's why I said you just stop. You lose your interest. You lose cravings. And when you do eat, you become satiated extremely fast because of the GLP-1 hormone. And so you have these things like vomiting and diarrhea and stomach pain. It causes gas and other things. But on the far side are things like thyroid cancer, but it's rare, but possible. I won't get into the rest of this. But if you are, stymied by your weight and you have somewhere in the borderline region of diabetes, then go and talk to your doctor. And all of this money that's flowing into these companies is going to lead them, all the record profits, it's going to lead them to making this a pill because they're doing the fundamental research, and that takes time and money. And they've invested a shit ton of, and that's the metric version of it because it's a European country. a metric shit ton of money to do this research, and now they're continuing to do the research. Several of them. It's not just like Eli Lilly is doing this. Novo Nordisk is the one that makes Ozempic and Wegovy. And there's a couple of others, but really it's Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk. But all right, let's keep going. This show is going to run real long. Sorry. So the next article, and I'll do this one really fast. Woman adds best sign outside house in response to neighbors complaining, quote unquote complaining. But let me tell you, man, if people are complaining, there's a reason. Several of Laura Brickmani's neighbors have been urging her to cut down her walnut tree, but she has come up with a workaround. She apparently added a sign. Jack Beresford over at Newsweek.com put the article together. I hope that there's a sign.
But let's reflect on what's happening and why people are complaining. So walnuts are falling. It says the walnut bombing begins. I have a metal roof and they sound like gunshots when they fall and they ricochet off my roof at surprising and dangerous angles. You can see people like diving for cover either because a walnut's coming at them or because of the sound.
Okay, but she's aware of it, and she's even stating that they're ricocheting off her roof at surprising and dangerous angles. She's aware of it. Not even she likes it.
She needs to put like a little awning or something that they could bounce quietly and safely off of.
Well, what some people do, particularly with trees like that, is they put a net around it.
Oh, right. So it actually collects the things. Yes. Because it says also squirrels go back up and basically repeat the process.
Yeah. Run down the tree and shake it and stuff. Or run up the tree, I should say.
I mean, that would be a little off-putting if you were in earshot.
Oh, yeah. Blam, blam, blam. Yes, because walnuts make blam, blam, blam sounds. Anyway, she posted a sign with an orange cone that says, beware of falling walnuts, also free walnuts. I like it. So far, I have had positive feedback, although no one seems to be collecting free walnuts yet. Brickmoney shared a picture of the sign to Reddit, saying that her neighbors had been complaining about that sign, which I think is silly. Got quite a response with 14,000 upvotes and counting, as well as a few requests for walnuts. I guess you could just pack it all up. Are you allowed to distribute walnuts? I mean, like going into California, they do a body cavity check for fruit.
It depends on the agricultural rules, probably.
Yeah. Oh, and I heard like different states, you can't send alcohol. It won't go through the state. It'll wrap around it. Like dry states.
Oh, absolutely. There's very... well, and sometimes it's because of competition reasons. Like you can sometimes ship it within, but not across.
That's just... it's damn near despotic. I mean, just for crying out loud, it's just traveling through. Oh, whatever. Anyway, they say this is a beautiful tree that's been here for probably a century. Sure, she is big and overbearing. There's a mom joke there. But the benefits to the wildlife and environment outweigh the nuisance of falling walnuts, Brickmanus said. And have you seen the cost of walnuts these days? They are a pain to process, but pretty cool when they just fall into my lap. Okay. I came into this article going, oh man, there's a reason why people are complaining. And there are. But
there is.
This is good
nature.
I
think that could be remedied, but yes, I agree.
Yeah. If this is the worst of your problems,
that might provide some comic relief if people would just think about what that was.
It's over 100 feet tall. Can you imagine these things dropping from orbit onto a metal roof?
Oh, I can see why they're so loud.
Around this time of year.
Cutting a tree down is really the solution.
Yeah, I think that's a overkill. I wonder if the tree was there longer than the houses. They kept the tree, but built the houses. You know, it's like the poltergeist of walnut trees. You built a house, but you didn't move the tree. Anybody who's watched Poltergeist knows what I'm talking about. Let's move on. Next article is over on the Marble Channel. Deepwater Marine submarine recovers Roman battering ram from ancient battle. I thought that last article was only going to be like 2 minutes. Turned it into 5, 6. Anyway, 2,200-year-old artifact was used in a famous battle between Rome and Carthage as part of the Punic Wars. You're a Punic War. So the article's over at Isaac.
Punic Wars.
Yeah. I remember the Punic War. So the article's over at gizmodo.com. Isaac Schultz put the article together. A bronze battering ram recovered from the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, that's just awesome looking. So like Roman ships smashed into these other ships, and that, I guess, the front fell off. The team stated a naval battle between Rome and Carthage that marked the end of the First Punic War in 241 BCE. After 23 years of conflict between the two empires, the discovery of the rostrum, announced by Sicily's Department of Cultural Heritage Superintendents of the Sea. That sounds like the name of a ship.
Yeah, it does.
Superintendents of the Sea. Was recovered by divers with the Society for the Documentation of Submerged Sites. All right. The recovery team also used the research vessel Hercules. Hercules to aid in the rostrum's identification and recovery. They found it at a depth of 262 feet. Yay!
I mean, this is like the stuff that like the people on Oak Island or something would be interested in.
Yeah, if only it was.
If it was at the right location.
For those in the podcast, the silence is me pointing to the other side of the planet. So since the early 2000s, 27 rostra, which I guess is the plural for rostrum, has been found or had been found. According to the team's social media post, the rostra were used for, you guessed it, ramming enemy ships. That's how I got that name. Anyway, with the goal of punching holes in them, ultimately sinking them. Other ancient wartime artifacts have also been identified in the team's survey, including 30 Roman helmets, 2 swords, and a relatively common find, amphorae, bottles. Which somebody tried to explain to me. It was a video and a discussion about the bases of these amphora. Like, why are they always round? Because you can't just set them down. But They say that it was easier to lean them against the walls of the ship, and they would all kind of just roll around instead of being locked in and potentially one fall over and smashing the other.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm like, all right. Because what you want is something.
Why didn't they crash into each other and break, though?
Why didn't just the friction cause them to break? All the weight leaning on each other. I don't know. I'm not an expert in Roman artifacts. Let's keep moving, though, before I spend so much time talking about it that I do become an expert in Roman amphorae. So the next article is over on the Hatch Ideas channel, and this article's titled is Amazon Checkout Process Its Technical Snag During Labor Day Sale. Let me tell you something. I'm glad that this article was submitted because it gives me something to jump on my soapbox. I'll try to not belabor it, but I watched over a 24-hour period something that had not been in my cart and priced at $549 jump up to $669. Most of that within a 2-hour span. At one point, a jump of $100, dunk, and then it ticked up a little bit to the $669. And it just kind of blew me away. And so I said, you know what? I'm not going to buy this. And I dumped it out of my cart. And guess what price it went back down to?
The original.
$609. Not totally down, but I thought it was really interesting. And I wish I would have done screenshots to take to document this, but I was telling people about it as it was happening. I'd like refresh the screen, and I'm like, this thing has gone up $150 or something like that total amount at one point. Anyway, so it is the Labor Day weekend, and so sales started on Friday, and apparently people are finding them because I'm not finding them for what I'm looking for. Probably because they've been sitting in my shopping cart, and I swear there has to be, like, not surge pricing, but relative pricing based on how long you've been showing interest. It has to be going on. So what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to talk with a couple of people to have them pull up an item and see. Anyway, Jordan Novet over at CNBC put this article together. The key points here is Amazon's cloud unit was not responding to any issues during the checkout downtime. People posted on social media about not being able to complete purchases on Amazon. Dun, dun, dun. I mean, that's all there really is to this, right?
Yeah, I mean, the pricing is so outrageous, but really the cart problem during a major holiday weekend is probably not a good thing.
Yeah, and I've postponed buying anything because I want to see what happens with these. Well, now I have to wait until next week because I need certain information, but maybe I'll just buy it and I'll have it. We'll see. All right, let's keep moving. This next article is over in the Mobile Channel. Sleeping in on weekends could protect against heart disease, and if you take Ozempic or Wegovy or Zepbound or...
Right, then you could have a double win.
There you go. Using the weekend to catch up on sleep may reduce the risk of heart disease by as much as 20%. And again, if you take those weight loss drugs, you can live longer, and you won't even have heart disease while you're living longer. So sleep in, everybody. The UK Biobank study of more than 90,000 people showed that the people who received the most weekend catch-up sleep, which really sucks, and everybody shouldn't have to do that, catch up on sleep, were less likely to develop heart disease.
Presume everybody had control of their schedule and their employers weren't calling at all hours.
Oh, look. Oh. You know what? I guess we need the right to disconnect and the right to be forgotten. Our results show that for the significant portion of the population in modern society that suffers from sleep deprivation, those who have the most catch-up sleep on weekends have significantly lower lower rates of heart disease than those with the least amount. So, said one study's authors. So, I think that this is awesome, but I don't think that your work should make you suffer from experiencing life when you aren't on the clock.
I agree. And also, we keep hearing, don't sleep in, and now this is in a different direction.
Right. Yeah. Very frustrating. We'll never know. And most of us will not be around long enough to find out, because the real number is going to be something in 100 years when they go, oh yeah, now we know.
Well, or somebody might know after they've had an entire lifetime following faulty
data
information.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You wake up one day and they tell you the truth and you're like, I'm 93 freaking years old.
Right?
You
It's
sons
a
of
little
bitches.
hard to reverse that.
Yeah. Quick, just start stabbing me with Wegovy needles and reverse, throw it in reverse, stat. Anyway, a separate study in 2018 found that people who slept 4 to 6 hours each night during the week and then caught up on the weekends lived longer than those who carried their sleep debt into the next week. Another 2020 study suggested that catch-up sleep may be associated with reduced low-grade inflammation. Again, the weight loss drugs mitigate that. And in 2023, research said sleeping in on weekends may have benefits for adolescents who tend to need more sleep and get less sleep. I don't know. When I was a kid, I got all the sleep I freaking wanted. Nowadays, literally, the children are being told that they can't sit around. They can't sleep in. They got to go and do. They got to study harder. They got to get a job.
Right, the schools start early, etc.
Yep. So school-age children need as many as 12 hours of sleep. Teenagers generally require 8 to 10 hours of sleep, and adults 18 to 60 need 7 or more hours of sleep nightly. And not a single one of us get it unless they're
I was gonna
independently
say,
wealthy.
who's actually achieving any of those numbers at any age?
Yeah, I'm getting like 4. Okay, let's keep moving though. This last article will be quick, I promise. It'll be quick. Okay, so it's over on 4-Wheel Tech. It's a junkyard gem. 4-Wheel Tech is a show that's on tomorrow night. Well, tomorrow afternoon. Early evening. Something like that. Anyway, it's over at Autoblog. Murley Martin put the article together. This is the 2000 Suzuki Swift. And the reason why I chose this is that 24 years ago, this car was advertised as getting 40 to 44 miles per gallon.
Oh, interesting.
So the Suzuki Cultus first went on sale in the United States as the 1985 model Chevrolet Sprint badges. The second generation Cultus became the Geo Metro and the Chevy Metro, and Suzuki sold the same car with Swift badges through its own American dealerships during that period. Today's
I've not heard of
gem.
the Swift, but the other ones, and I didn't know those were the same.
I've heard of Suzuki Samurai, and what else was there? There was another Suzuki. Anyway, Suzuki Swift is where it's at, apparently. So it was a very cheap car. MSRP was $9,000. It's $17,000 in 2024 dollars.
$9,000 for a car?
Yeah, $17,000 in 2024 dollars. So in 24 years, it nearly doubled in price. Yeah.
Inflation everywhere.
Yep. That was cheaper than its identical twin, the Chevy Metro, at $9,200. Both were built by Cami Automotive in Canada. By 2000, the Swift was available as a 3-door hatchback, while the Metro was built as a sedan. Dun dun dun. So we don't know who Sugar Mama is, but I don't know. Maybe the name of the car. They suspect 150,000 miles. Apparently, it was traded in. Maybe couldn't sell, so it was thrown
Looks like
into
it's in kind of rough shape.
So 24-year-old car that doesn't get repaired and doesn't get maintained and is sitting in a junkyard. I kind of, when you first look at it, that's what you think, but off you go. So there's the ad. 40 miles per gallon.
I mean,
city.
that's fascinating, but what happened to every other car?
You tell me. Rob Lowe endorsed it, apparently. Back in Japan, Rob Lowe proclaimed this car to be hip conscious. Not sure what that means. Anyway. Oh, now I get why you were doing that. Okay. Well, anyway, we're going to hop in our Suzuki and swiftly go to the front page. And that's it for the show. We are done. Dun, dun, dun. So I am Merwat, and that is the visualizer and the voice of the Sentient AI from the future. You want to say bye to everybody?
Good night, ohmTown citizens. Thanks for joining us for Non Sequitur News. Stay tuned for our weekly shows.
Yeah, we're going to reset. That means I'm going to end the stream, which allows me to reset all of the video, and I'm going to get all of the new articles ready. And we're going to do Reality Hacker next. So be sure to stick around if you're into VR, AR, artificial intelligence, deep fakes, basically hacking reality into what you want it to be. Well, that's your show. See you in a little bit. My Suzuki Swift says